Hello, welcome back to Business Communications. Today we're going through the Saylor Academy book, Module 6, Chapter 11. I'm Professor LaRue. So the principles of nonverbal communication are addressed in Chapter 11, and these involve conveying a message without the use of words, something we do more often than you think. Nonverbal communication involves the entire body, the space it occupies and dominates, the time it interacts, and what is not said and how it is not said. So nonverbal communication is irreversible, so you can't take it back. It's also fast, so you tend to respond immediately with emotions. Nonverbal communication also can add or replace verbal communication. And as people tend to pay more attention to how you say it rather than the way you or what you say. We also use nonverbal gestures that we called illustrators to communicate effectively or reinforce a point we're trying to make. So there are 10 of these that the book refers to. One of them is called adapters, and those help us feel more comfortable. There's affect displays, so these express emotions. There's complementing, that means that they reinforce verbal communication. There's contradicting, which actually contradict the verbal communication. There's emblems, so nonverbal gestures. There's illustrators that reinforce a verbal message. There's masking that substitutes the message. There's object adapters that use objects for a purpose. There's regulators that control the communication, and there's also repeating and replacing, which they will repeat or replace verbal communication. So people tend to place more confidence in nonverbal communication, particularly if they're lying. So Zuckerman and DePaulo studies of behavior describe these as being deceptive. So when you reduce eye contact, when there's an awkward pause, when there's a deliberate articulation of words, also when you increase the delay in response, when there's an increased change in posture, and when there's decrease in smiling. Therefore, it is key to pay special attention to the body language and when it comes to communicating in business. Now, take a moment and think about watching either on TV or in person someone you admire, and then looking at the nonverbal gestures or communication they're conveying. Write those things down and take a moment to reflect on that. Now, there's also types of nonverbal communication. These include space, time, physical characteristics, body movement, touch, paralanguage, artifacts, and environment. And there's a good YouTube on this you might want to check out that talks about this in more detail, called The 8 Types of Nonverbal Communication by Vivian Hall. That might be of interest to you if you're trying to do a presentation or communicate in a nonverbal manner. Now, the module then goes on to talk about movement in your speak. And this is feeling confident as you move around a stage or an area when you're speaking to the public or giving a simple speech. Now, this movement requires planning, same as the words that you're going to use or the visual aids that you're going to design. So one example is that I tend to dress in suits when I speak in public to audiences. And I often do this when I give Zoom lectures, even from home. And it's not that I prefer to wear suits regularly, but it always gives me a little more confidence, and if I'm dressed up like a businesswoman for the occasion. So if there's something that makes you feel more comfortable when you're speaking up or in public, then go ahead and do so. Now, gestures also provide a way to channel your nervous energy into a positive activity, so that benefits your speech. Similarly, facial gestures can reinforce the spoken words. So take a moment and see if you can record yourself talking with another family member and notice your gestures when you're doing that. For example, when I did this a few years back, I found out that I fidget constantly when I talk. And so I try to limit that a little bit when I speak in public, but it doesn't always work, of course. Now, visual aids such as slides, props, whiteboards are usually helpful for your speech. So it makes your speech more interesting, it enhances your credibility, it serves as a guide to transition, it communicates complex information, and it reinforces your verbal message. So there is a good YouTube on this called How to Use Visual Aids for Public Speaking by Dory Meng that you might want to check out at your own time. Now, when preparing visual aids, keep in mind that they should be big and clear so people can see them and get the material through. Also, simple and consistent are keys to simplifying the concept and reinforcing the speech. So there is a good YouTube also on preparing your presentation if you're doing maybe a PowerPoint presentation called How to Make a Good PowerPoint Presentation by HubSpot. And there are some tips the book shares with you on PowerPoints is to keep it visual and simple, to use one key idea per slide, to avoid clutter and noise, use large bold fonts, use contrasting colors, and edit and proofread before you send the material through. Finally, the last area that we wanted to mention in this module is nonverbal strategies. And this is for successful communication, to watch reactions in your audience. Also, try to enroll an observer that can give you feedback. And finally, focus on specific types of nonverbal communication that you can bring on to your presentation. So hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you on the next module of effective business communication.